Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Brazilian educator and philosopher Paulo Freire, published in 1968, remains one of the most influential works in the fields of education, critical pedagogy, and social justice. Written during a time of political turbulence and oppressive regimes in Latin America, Freire's work seeks to address the fundamental relationship between education, power, and liberation. The book challenges traditional methods of education, proposing a radical rethinking of the teacher-student relationship and highlighting the transformative potential of education as a tool for emancipation. This essay explores the main ideas, themes, and implications of Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed, examining its enduring relevance in contemporary educational practices and social movements. Freire wrote Pedagogy of the Oppressed while in exile in Chile after being imprisoned in Brazil for his literacy campaigns, which were perceived as subversive by the military dictatorship. His educational efforts focused on empowering marginalized communities, particularly the rural poor, to gain literacy and consequently political awareness. The book draws heavily from Freire's experiences with these communities and his observations of how traditional educational systems often perpetuate systems of oppression. Freire was influenced by Marxist philosophy, existentialism, and liberation theology, all of which shaped his belief that education should be a dialogical and participatory process aimed at raising critical consciousness, conscientização. One of the key concepts in Pedagogy of the Oppressed is the banking model of education. Freire criticizes traditional education systems for treating students as passive recipients of knowledge, where teachers deposit information into students' minds as if they were empty vessels. This method, according to Freire, dehumanizes students and serves to maintain existing power structures by discouraging critical thinking and active participation. Freire argues that the banking model enforces a hierarchical relationship between teacher and student, where the teacher is seen as the absolute authority and the student as a subordinate. This dynamic mirrors broader social inequalities and reinforces a culture of silence, where oppressed individuals accept their condition without question. Instead of this oppressive model, Freire advocates for a problem-posing education, where students are active participants in their own learning. In this approach, teachers and students engage in dialogue, and knowledge emerges through critical reflection and interaction with the world. Dialogue and conscientization. Central to Freire's philosophy is the concept of dialogue. He emphasizes that genuine learning can only occur through open and respectful dialogue between teacher and student. In this model, the teacher is no longer a narrating subject and the student is no longer a listening object. Instead, both parties become co-creators of knowledge. Dialogue, for Freire, is not merely an exchange of ideas, but a fundamental tool for consciousness raising, conscientização. This term refers to the process by which individuals become aware of their social reality, recognize systems of oppression, and take action to transform their world. Through conscientization, education becomes a liberating act. Students learn not only to read words, but also to read the world, interpreting their reality critically and understanding their role in changing oppressive structures. Freire distinguishes between the oppressor and the oppressed, arguing that liberation is a shared process that requires the active participation of both groups. He critiques what he calls false generosity, where the oppressors offer superficial acts of charity that maintain the status quo rather than addressing the root causes of inequality. True liberation, Freire asserts, cannot be bestowed from above, but must be achieved through the collective struggle of the oppressed. Education plays a central role in this process, serving as a tool for empowerment rather than control. However, Freire also warns of the danger of the oppressed internalizing the oppressor's mindset. In the struggle for liberation, the oppressed must avoid replicating the same patterns of domination, and instead strive to create a more just and egalitarian society. Reflection and action. Another critical concept in Pedagogy of the Oppressed is praxis, which Freire defines as the cycle of reflection and action. Praxis involves not only analyzing the world, but also taking action to change it. Without action, reflection becomes empty intellectualism, and without reflection, action becomes mindless activism. Freire emphasizes that both reflection and action are essential for genuine transformation. Praxis allows individuals to become agents of change, moving beyond passive acceptance of their circumstances to actively reshape their reality. The relevance of Freire's ideas today. Although Pedagogy of the Oppressed was written in the context of Latin American authoritarian regimes, its themes remain deeply relevant in contemporary society. Education systems around the world still grapple with inequalities, rigid hierarchies, and standardized testing cultures that often prioritize rote memorization over critical thinking. Freire's critique of the banking model resonates with ongoing debates about neoliberal education policies, where education is increasingly viewed as a commodity rather than a public good. His call for dialogue and participatory learning has influenced movements for democratic education, community organizing, and grassroots activism. Moreover, Freire's ideas have been embraced by social movements worldwide, including feminist anti-racist and decolonial struggles, where education is seen as a key tool for empowerment and resistance. Criticisms of Freire's work. Despite its profound impact, Pedagogy of the Oppressed has faced criticism. Some argue that Freire's writing style is overly abstract and difficult to apply in practical classroom settings. Others claim that his emphasis on dialogue and participatory learning may not always be feasible in resource-limited educational environments. Additionally, some critics suggest that Freire's Marxist influences limit the applicability of his ideas in non-political or capitalist contexts. However, even these critics often acknowledge the importance of his contributions to educational theory and social justice. Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire is not merely a book about education. It is a call to action for those who believe in the power of education as a tool for social transformation. Freire challenges us to rethink the role of education, not as a means of reproducing existing power structures, but as a revolutionary force capable of creating a more just and equitable world. His concepts of the banking model, dialogue, conscientization, and praxis continue to inspire educators, activists, and thinkers worldwide. Freire reminds us that education is inherently political, and that liberation is only possible when both teachers and students recognize their shared humanity and work together to challenge systems of oppression. In an era of growing inequalities, political polarization, and global crises, Pedagogy of the Oppressed remains an essential guide for anyone committed to building a more just and democratic society through education.